Ukrainian President Zelenskyy accused China of helping Russia to disrupt an upcoming peace conference. 2024 marks the 80th anniversary of D-Day, but officials decided against hosting the Russian President Vladimir Putin. A Chinese spacecraft landed on the far side of the moon in a growing space rivalry with the United States. Ukrainian President Zelenskyy accused China of helping Russia to disrupt an upcoming peace conference. At the Shangri-La Defense Forum in Singapore, Zelenskyy said China was pressuring other countries not to attend the upcoming talks in Switzerland.
Some world leaders have not yet confirmed their participation in the peace summit. Unfortunately, there are also attempts to disrupt the summit. We do not want to believe that this is a desire for monopolistic power in the world to deny the global community the opportunity to decide on war and peace.
He urged top defense officials to attend the summit, saying he was disappointed at the failure of some countries to commit to joining. Zelenskyy also said Ukraine had proposals to make at the summit, like addressing nuclear security, food security, and the release of prisoners of war.
At least one person has been killed and 8 others injured when an apartment building collapsed in Istanbul. The cause was not immediately clear as there were no reports of an explosion or seismic activity. The incident has renewed fears about the resilience of buildings in a city prone to earthquakes. Istanbul lies near the North Anatolian fault line, and an earthquake in the city in 1999 killed at least 18,000 people. Thousands of people have protested in Berlin against high rents and forced evictions. They're demanding radical changes to housing policy, including a national rent cap and a ban on arbitrary contract terminations. Over half of Germans live in rented accommodation, with 80% of Berlin's population renting their homes. According to a report released last month by the Berlin Hauptbank, rents have increased by more than 18% to almost €14 per square meter. North Korea has said it would stop sending balloons carrying rubbish to South Korea, but promised to resume if anti-regime leaflets are flown over the border. The balloons started on Saturday, carrying rubbish like cigarette butts, paper waste and plastic. Pyongyang said they were in retaliation for a propaganda campaign by North Korean defectors and activists in the south. Seoul blasted the practice as unimaginably petty and promised unendurable countermeasures.
2024 marks the 80th anniversary of D-Day, but officials decided against hosting the Russian President Vladimir Putin. The upcoming week's events, which will include fireworks shows, parachute jumps, solemn commemorations and ceremonies, will be attended by world leaders. Many see it as a chance to effectively pass the baton of remembrance to the current generations now seeing war again in Europe, in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelenskyy, US President Biden and British royals are among the VIPs that France is expected to host for these D-Day events. Organisers confirmed that the Russian president would not be invited to any commemorative events due to the country's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. However, some Russian representatives will be allowed access in order to recognize the country's wartime sacrifice. A Chinese spacecraft landed on the far side of the moon to collect rocks in a growing space rivalry with the United States. The mission set out to collect soil and rock samples and is part of a growing extraterrestrial rivalry with the US, Japan, India, and other nations. China is aiming to put a person on the moon before 2030, which would make it the second country after the US to do so.